Hello, I'm Tony and today we are taking a look at Invincible presents Atom Eve, an interactive story currently free from Prime Gaming via the Epic Games Store until the middle of December 2023. How weird is it that Amazon appear to be paying Epic to give games away? Isn't that Epic's thing as well? Anyway, don't be surprised if this appears in a future Epic Games free giveaway in the near future. This is of course a spin-off from the Invincible comic, which I've not read and I've not seen the animated series, but I am aware of it. I know enough about it to know that there are tie-ins with events from the main series in this game, which was pretty cool. I imagine it's a bit more impactful though if you are a fan already. You play Atom Eve, or just Eve, who couldn't resist including her own name into her secret superhero identity, which might not have been the best idea actually. The story starts off with a fight with a goofy, not particularly super villain, which kind of sets the tone. It looks like a comic book, not an animated series. Like, the story plays out in comic strips and static scenes, with changes to these scenes being replacements of the characters instead of animations, which works well enough once you get used to characters fading out just to reappear looking in a different direction. I honestly don't think the game would have benefited much from being fully animated, because it keeps that feel of a comic book, which is more important and which the graphics are perfect for. There's no voice acting, which is a bit of a shame, but obviously also fits in with the style, though there is a fair amount of music that works really well, which I never heard when I read comic books. This music is kind of low key actually, mostly. There's a good song with lyrics playing over the title screen though, but for the most part it's kind of in the background. More prominent are sound effects for stuff like combat abilities, the dialogue bubbles popping up and all that sort of stuff, which round out the look and the atmosphere of the game really well. Gameplay is actually split, which is unexpected, into two main aspects. You got your dialogue options, which you expect from an interactive novel, and turn-based combat. Both of them are kind of linked together with a talent tree. Yeah, it's official, this is an RPG, people. From the interactive point of view, I'm a bit skeptical about exactly how much control you actually have over the flow of the story. I replayed the last chapter with a late game choice that kind of had the same outcome. Different choices basically gave me an extra fight, but basically made no difference to the ending whatsoever. Yeah, kind of a shame. I would say initially the story wasn't really grabbing me, because it was concerned with the romance options of teenagers, which I have zero interest in, but I am glad I persevered with it, because I really enjoyed it. The story, not the teenage romance bit. I'd have been happy just reading this as a comic, even without the interaction, though one of the main characters was a bit irritating in a Joss Whedon stupid quip kind of a way, which I definitely could have done without, but which every piece of media seems to have by default nowadays. That being said, the dialogue is pretty well written and the story is really engaging. I was invested in what happened to Eve, and I was happy to have the option to be very angry at times. I can't ask much more than that from a story. Now let's talk about the combat. It's turn-based, and you have a few actions you can take each round, which use up a limited amount of energy that replenishes a bit every turn. Different options on the talent tree will give you different options in combat, based on which of the three main branches you choose. I went with empathy since it's an interactive story, so I wanted more dialogue options. I didn't go for the combat or the creative branch. You get a point to invest as you level up from experience you gain by fights or just playing the game. And I'd got enough by the end of the game for 1.5 branches of the three, so basically half of the options. Because of my non-combat choice, the actual fights got a bit monotonous, to be honest. The fights become a little bit of a slog really. I do know the combat tree gives an AoE effect which might help, but most of your skills are fixed, so I don't see a huge amount of difference between the fights. There's just not that many options available. It is a shame, since there were some fights with quite novel mechanics to overcome, which I actually quite enjoyed. I guess the option is to try the combat tree if you do want to do these fights and make them a bit quicker, because all the trees give you extra dialogue options in the interactive story part. Or, I think some of the battles are actually optional, so you can just avoid them if you want. Quite a major issue for me though was in the 3.5 hours I played, which was the whole playthrough, the game crashed 3 times. It's not as bad as it kind of sounds though, because you don't really lose much progress. I didn't get a crash during the fight, it was just like a dialogue scenes. It's not great, and it would be annoying to like crash during the fight and lose what for me might have been like 5 minutes of kind of boring fights. Having said that, I did really enjoy this game. It had a really good story that had me invested, no doubt helped by the actual interaction with it, even if it didn't make that much difference. As I said, even though there were a couple of fights I enjoyed, you can get rid of the combat as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, if you think turn-based combat is boring, this is not going to help that perception whatsoever. If you're okay with that and want an interactive novel that includes that, kind of niche probably, I recommend this game. It was really fun, it was a good story. If you're a fan of Invincible, you'll probably get even more out of this than I did, so yeah, recommendation. Okay, that's all from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.